It's the biggest story of the day, a story of a military invasion of Ashaiman, but one that has raised a lot of questions. And many of you have seen the videos that have dominated social media. In fact, it has been trending on Twitter, on Facebook, almost everywhere. It is the pictures and videos, very strong videos indeed, of violent attack on civilians in Ashaiman. Many of them have been asked, as you see in some of the videos, to roll on the floor. Some of them were kicked. Others were simply just assaulted. The rooms were broken into, etc., by the military. And we have a case of the helicopters swirling above. And tonight we're going to look at on PMS tonight, military attacks and invasion. We're going to be looking to speak to some of the actors, but also getting the clarity on what happened in Ashaiman. But those are the circumstances surrounding why this isn't the first case, but it's happened many times. How do you deal with it more substantively? And I want to, just for the start, tell you what we've seen today. So far, we know that at least 72 residents of Ashaiman have been taken away by the military. Now, the interesting thing about the number is that as of 6 p.m., the Ashaiman MP who put out this number says he's been moving from one military barracks to the next, looking for these 72 residents of Ashaiman who can be found. We spoke to a parent who says that he cannot find 3 of his children. And he narrates the circumstances surrounding which they were taken. They were in a room. The 3 children were in a room. He was away. He's a retired officer from the immigration service. He was away when the children called him, panicking that their door was being broken into, and it was the military officers who were doing the same. And he rushed home. His children have already been taken away by the military. Part of the 72 that are currently, you can say, missing because nobody knows where they are. The MP and a team of lawyers have been looking for these 72. The MP says the MP is a member of the assembly, so he's checked with the Security Council and the police command. They don't know where the 72 residents are as we speak tonight, and all fingers are now pointing at the military for doing this. And they were deployed not only just boots on the ground, they had helicopters swirling above in Ashaiman. So this is a big deal. We've seen a lot happening across the country, and we'll go through that for you. And this is what has been recounted today in terms of the incidents in Ashaiman, as we've seen. But I want to share with you a bit of what we've also learned, moving beyond what has happened today to the reported cases that we've also tracked, just to put what has happened today in a bigger context. We found 10 cases of military brutality in the last 3 years alone, 10 across the country. But 2 of them stand out. In other words, what has happened today isn't the first. It's happened many times in the past. We count 10. And I want to take you to 2 examples that many remember. In June 2021, we know the case of the Jira, where on the show we did that particular breaking news story, where you see military men kneeling, taking aim at civilians who were demonstrating. Yeah, may have turned violence at some point, but we saw those pictures. It prompted a commission was set up to look into those disturbances and the role the military played in those disturbances that led to the death of one person. Many people were injured as a result of that in the wake of those protests. And then also in July 2021, again, 86 soldiers in Wa. They stormed the Tindama and brutalized some residents of the area. Now, the accusation then by the military at that time was that one of their officers had their phone stolen, and so they decided to take the matter into their own hands and hit the streets. And this was captured on video. They were just rampaging through the streets, asking civilians to lie in gutters And we had a similar tale from Ashaiman yesterday. A man told us that he was forced to lie in a gutter. And this was at time, dawn, around 3 a.m. It was pouring. There was a heavy downpour, and so the gutters were full. So I was asked to lie in a gutter. He says he even had to swallow some of the gutter water. I mean, so that's the situation with these two, but telling all that we have recounted. In all cases, the military believed that they had been wronged. In the case of Ashaiman, we must say that a military officer had been killed and stabbed under tragic circumstances, and that is completely condemnable. And the police had already begun investigating this matter when the military decided to step in. And if you look at what this had meant, and this is why I'm looking at the bigger picture, this had meant that our human rights record has been affected on a global stage. If you look at the Ghana's Human Rights Index, you see the trend is trending downwards, which is not a good story to tell. The argument isn't that it's only because of these recorded military brutalities, but certainly they form part of the narrative that has resulted in the downward trend of a human rights record on the international stage. And this is not good. I mean, if you play on the international level and on the international stage, this record will be an important factor in the way the rest of the world relate to you. And I'm pretty sure you've seen what has happened to Saudi Arabia, to Qatar, and countries that have been tagged as with poor human rights records. Each time they invest in any country, it's become a big deal because of that record. You don't want Ghana to be there. Look at how significantly we've trended from a high of 5.3 in the index all the way down to 4.1 in 2022. So this is a terrible story that will possibly add to this particular narrative. When I return, I'll bring in my guests, try and nail down what the challenge is and why we often see the military engage in these acts and how do you deal with them. There is the police service. They are mandated to investigate murders of all kinds, right? Especially because this military officer, as unfortunate as it sounds, and this is tragically ending his life, and it's condemnable, it is the primary job of the police to investigate it. And the police, again, we have to hear from the police. We haven't heard from the police. What are the police doing to bring closure to this so the military men and women believe that they are getting justice for their man who had been slain? My guests are joining me after this. Stay with me. And thank you for joining us on PM Express. My guest joining me tonight, Kofi Amankwa Menu, who is the Deputy Defense Minister. Also joining me right now is NS Henry Nogbe. He's a Member of Parliament for the Ashaiman constituency. I'm also joined tonight by Adam Bona, Security Analyst and the CEO of the Security Warehouse Limited. I want to start with the Deputy Defense Minister. Mr. Amankwa Menu, thanks for joining us on PM Express. I wonder, have you been briefed at all about this incident, and what was the brief?
Well, I must first of all thank you for this opportunity to also talk about what is happening at Ashaiman. And let me also greet my brother, the Honorable Member of Ashaiman, NS Nogbe, and Adam Bona. So this early morning, I had a call from Ashaiman that there was some operations going on. I immediately got in touch with the Honorable Member of Ashaiman and tried to find out from him whether what I was hearing was the truth. I was actually in the constituency. And I then told him I was going to get in touch with the CDS, which I did. And the whole thing is about a young soldier who was murdered, brutally murdered on Saturday, and while he was going to visit the family. And so at dawn this morning, the soldiers mounted operation to find or to bring to book the perpetrators of this heinous crime. And so the operations undertaken this morning was a sanctioned operation by the military high command. It's a well-coordinated operation. That basically is what's happening.
Okay, so this is a sanctioned operation and well coordinated as well. So wait,
Exactly.
have you been told? So when they were officially deployed?
Yes.
Okay, and do we know what their instructions were when they were deployed?
To find out the perpetrators and to bring them to book, the perpetrators of this heinous crime. Because, my brother, there is something happening in this country, and I think that we really must be careful. Every now and then, a soldier is killed. Let us take our minds back. Not too long ago, Major Mahama met his untimely death whilst on duty. This young man, a young soldier in military uniform, going to the parents again, was murdered. What really is going on? Is it a crime to step out to want to serve your country as a military officer? We don't get it. And we think that the earlier we nip this in the bud, the better it will be for the whole country. It's important we do that. And so, yes, the soldiers needed to move in to find out the perpetrators of this heinous crime.
Okay, so that was your brief. So that offers some great clarity. And so, do we know if they found the perpetrator?
Well, as we speak, some people have been rounded up, and they are doing the necessary screening, and thereafter, we will see how it goes. Those who are found culpable will be made to face the law.
So the people who have been arrested, where are they being kept? In the military barracks or with the police?
Well, I can't speak specifically to that, where they are now, but I know they are being screened.
Is it safe to say they are in the custody of the military?
I can't speak to that for a fact.
Okay. And so this operation that had happened, I'm pretty sure post this, have you seen the videos of what the military men did when they went there? Of the brutality?
I think that it is only proper that we admit when there are excesses. And in operations of this nature, you may get one or two people who may get carried away. And so, if decent, innocent residents of Ashaiman were caught up in these operations, I, in my capacity as the Deputy Defense Minister, will want to apologize for that. That, of course, we will apologize. But, my brother, we are not going to apologize for the operations.
Okay, but you say you're not going to apologize for the operations. However, the military, they don't have law enforcement powers. So, in what capacity and what authority were they deployed to look for perpetrators when the police has the powers to enforce law?
It's often be the case in this country that we always do selective, we select as and when it suits us. Time and time again, the military has been working in collaboration with the police. They have been doing this across the country. And so I don't think that it is proper when we do this selective thing. If it suits us, yes, it's okay, the military can be brought in. But when the military is under attack, that they don't have the right to do that, I can't accept that. I can't accept that.
But do you accept the basic legal fact that the military do not have law enforcement powers?
Legally, I will agree with you. But then, how come the military is always made to work? I use the word, they collaborate with the police. They collaborate with the police. The police has that legal right, and so the army collaborates with the police. Are we saying that when it suits us, we quote the law to support it, but when it doesn't, then we forget about the law? We must be very consistent. We really need to be very consistent, my brother.
You make the point about the military collaborating with the police, but the architecture that allows that to happen always makes the police the lead agency in that collaborative effort. And the military only comes in when the police want them to and they've lost control. In fact, the Ayawaso West Wagon Commission re-emphasized this point, and also the Ejira Commission re-emphasized this point as well. In this case, it appears to me, and you can confirm this, that the military went in without the police. Isn't that a violation of that protocol?
Well, one may want to believe that, but I also think that when we are not in normal times, we cannot do normal things. Here, the military is under attack, and we cannot sit and fold our arms. We cannot do that. My brother, there is one institution we have in this country that Africaneer must make the effort to protect, and that for me is the military. The very day we lose that thing about the military, that will be the beginning of the end of our nation. And we cannot do that. We simply cannot do that. That it has suddenly become a crime to wear a uniform. You wear a uniform and then you become a threat. A young man going, a soldier going. You see, hitherto, even when a police officer or any security members of the security agencies even board a car, and then you sit in, you get up for them as a sign of respect for what the services they are rendering for this country. But suddenly, people begin to treat the security agencies with impunity, and that is unacceptable. It's unacceptable.
Mr. Mankwamenu, please stay with me. I want to bring in Anam Bonal, who has been following this very closely, security analyst. I also speak to Ernest Henry Nogbe, who is a member of parliament. Last time I spoke to him at 6 p.m., he was still looking for the 72 or so residents who have been taken away, rounded up by the military. Mr. Bonal, now we have great clarity from the Deputy Defense Minister that this was a sanctioned deployment, and their brief was to look for the perpetrators, those behind the murder of that military officer. Please give me your reaction. Kindly unmute for me, Mr. Bonner.
Good evening to my colleague finalists on the other side, the Deputy Defense Minister and the Honorable Member of Parliament. As far as I'm concerned, I would want to begin by, first of all, saying that probably for yesterday, if for nothing at all, yesterday was the Day of Independence, and one would have, where we celebrated, what do you call it, our independence, the 66th Independence Day. And so one would have wished that early morning when we had some showers of rain, we wouldn't have had such a thing happening. But unfortunately, it wasn't that way. I probably got a hint very early, at dawn, that such an operation was ongoing. And if you ask me, was I expecting it? Yes, I will tell you I was expecting it. The moment images of the slain soldier were sent to my phone, and I cross-checked and came back that it was a soldier who had been killed in that gory manner, I knew that if measures were not put in place, we were going to have something that looks like soldiers flooding the area and, attempting to look for the perpetrators of this crime. And so I will say that you don't use one wrong to cure another wrong. Those who killed this young soldier, we need to look for them. And as at yesterday or so, I had intel that one or some of the key suspects involved in this gory murder of the soldier were in police custody, and police were on the heels of probably the actual perpetrators to get them apprehended and put before court. But unfortunately, this happened this morning. And so I will say that what needs to happen immediately is to see how members of the community, the military high command, the deputy defense minister, the member of parliament for the area, who I believe is joined us this evening, to see how this can be looked at. I want to, once the deputy defense minister has confirmed that it is sanctioned, then probably once it is sanctioned by the military, it means that it is difficult for me to say that some persons would have to be punished, because then if you are looking for somebody to punish, then my good friend, the CDS, should be punished. And it will be very difficult to say he should be punished in this sense. Mine is that, Evans, you see, wrong is wrong. But I think that the justice delivery system we currently have, or we have in the country, has not done us a lot of good. The deputy defense minister reiterated the killing of Major Mahama. And as we speak, I won't go into the case, I won't go into it because it's in court. But as we speak, it is still in court. It's still in court how many years on? If you look at, there are JB Dankwa, there are several other cases like that that are still in court. And so sometimes you have these things going on, and you would have a segment of our community. I'm not making excuses for anybody. Sometimes trying to exact their own pound of flesh. I think that what the military did shouldn't have been the case. They shouldn't have done what they did. They should have left this absolutely, they should have just left it in the hands of the police to deal with. But as it was sanctioned by the military high command, it's difficult. I'm not sure whether the military high
Mr.
command...
Bonner, you're not suggesting that if it's being sanctioned by the military high command, and yet it is an affront to our constitution, our laws and rights have been violated, the individuals who sanction it, even if it's a CDS, should not be held to account.
Yes, he should be held to account. So basically what I'm trying to say is that we need to look for somebody. Is it the CDS who sanctioned it? Which unit? Because at the moment we don't even know. The military have various units.
No, I mean, but the deputy defense minister confirmed that he spoke to the CDS, and the CDS says this is a sanctioned operation, and so this must have come from the very top of the military. I mean, that is a confirmation of the. So that is settled. It's that having settled that, we now know, at least according to the MP, 72 people cannot be found. A father is looking for his 3 children tonight. Everybody condemns the murder of that military officer, but it is about the rule of law, right? Correct. I mean, and that is important for a society like ours. Isn't that why this has become an issue? And that maybe
Correct.
The military officers who authorize and sanction this need to answer some questions about why they didn't leave it to the military, to the police, who they collaborate with anyway, to lead the operation and then get them involved. That would have actually solved the problem, because they would have said that they are following the protocol. They had invited the police to lead, and they were part of a joint operation, which happens. But this is not a joint operation. This was a sole operation run by the military on civilian soil, in country.
Well, that's correct. For me, like I said, who sanctioned it? If it's the CDS, but I think I don't want to misquote the deputy defense minister. If it's a CDS, obviously the appointer would have to, sit the CDS down. If there are some sanctions, those sanctions must apply. But for me, I think that, and let me reiterate again and say, this operation should not have taken place. It should not have taken place because this is an inland, call it mainland or inland security matter or issue that has to do with one officer who has been killed. And obviously, if anyone at all is clothed with power to investigate this and go in there to attempt to do this, it should be done by the police. But unfortunately, that was not done. And for me, that is where I worry. And also, secondly, we don't also even know where the 72 other people who have been arrested, we don't know where they are. And so my belief is that it would have been, I would want to say, without mentioning words, that wherever they are, they should be handed over to the Ghana Police Service for due process to begin. Because we all know that the military doesn't possess prosecutorial powers. And once they don't possess prosecutorial powers, it means that you would need to hand whoever you have arrested to the police with whichever evidence you have to the police, so that the police would have to go delve into whatever evidence you have to see whether the evidence can be adduced in court. If not, then you don't have a case against them. And if you know how criminal prosecutions do happen, the game changer is evidence. So you could run 2,000 people, you could run them up, and if you don't have any evidence, they will be freed. And so for me, this early dawn operation, I would say it was expected, because then with the history we know with our military and the security services, you know what happened in Ablekuma many years ago under the late IGP Namfori, and other places, even I think Dom Fiase and other locations. One would say that this was expected. But as we speak, I am not sure whether there's been any conversations to ensure that those who currently, we don't know in whose custody they are, where they are. I do believe that maybe the MP would be able to tell us where these people are. Are they in the custody of the police, or they are still in the custody of the military? I think these are conversations we should have, because then, first of all, the soldier is dead. He shouldn't have been killed. He's been killed. But just like I said, I think we should have a much broader conversation when it comes to attack, sometimes also on uniform personnel. It is one too many, but that is not to make an excuse and say that, what do you call that, when it does happen, uniform personnel, because they possess more power, should go into communities and beat people up. But Evans, these things are becoming one too many. Just this evening, I've received 2 videos where I think some soldiers and I think some soldiers were getting molested somewhere in town. And I thought that either there is something wrong somewhere, either the soldiers who are getting themselves into this type of situation don't know what they are doing, or civilians are beginning to feel that they have some amount of, they can take the laws into their own hands by doing this. And so I think we should have a much broader conversation when it comes to the excesses, when dealing with uniform personnel. Once a while, you will see uniform personnel getting beaten, and sometimes the personnel moving on the ground and doing things like this, like it happened this morning in Ashaiman, which I condemn. I condemn, because then the military shouldn't have done that under no circumstances, but unfortunately they've done it. And so where do we go from here? That's the question.
And I'll expand that conversation shortly, but I still have with me, and I'm still waiting to get the MP on the line, because I know he was looking for his residents who were arrested. Mr. Mankwamenu, when I last spoke to your colleague MP for Ashaiman, he had been to one of the military barracks already and had been told the individuals who were picked up were not there. He was heading to the Burma camp, and he was struggling to find out where the residents have been kept. This is definitely something that I believe you should obviously be interested in. Earlier, you suggested that you don't know yet, but considering that he is 72 of them, he says, residents have reported to him, and he's been combing Accra, one military barracks to the next, looking for. What help are you offering to bring some clarity to him and the parents, mothers, and fathers who are looking and waiting for news on the whereabouts of their relatives, Ivini?
Yeah. So as I said earlier, when I picked up this information this morning, he was the first person I called. He is a very good friend, and so I wouldn't have a problem at all calling him, and then together we put our heads together to try to track wherever these people are. As I said, I don't know exactly where they are, but obviously, I think that the screening will be done, and those who will not be found culpable will be made to go home. I will call him, and then together we will see or try to track where they are. That wouldn't be a difficult thing to do at all.
What do you make of the suggestion by Mr. Bonner that those who have been arrested should be handed over to the police for the screening and for...
Obviously, Evans, the military do not have prosecutorial, for want of a better word, I would say, muscle to prosecute them. And so, yes, the farthest they can go is to have them screened and then hand them over to the police. That I can assure you. I mean, no, they will not be kept there for good. But I mean, they will just have to go through the screening, and then the police will take over from there. If that is what the situation is, because I don't even know whether, as we speak, they are with the military or with the police. I don't know. That's for a fact.
Earlier today, in Parliament, Mr. Nogbe had asked that the Defense and Interior Committee, of which he's a member, should open a probe into this because of the nature of what happened and the number of people that were allegedly brutalized. Is this something that you support?
I wouldn't have a problem at all. I wouldn't have a problem at all. But you see, we look at the people that have been brutalized, but we also look at the gentleman who has been killed, a gentleman in uniform serving and protecting the lives of Ghanaians. We should also take that into consideration. I would not condone with the excesses. I mean, I have already said that, yes, I, in my capacity as Deputy Defense Minister, will apologize for the excesses. I mean, that obviously is not what one would want to see done. That I apologize. But as I said, in operations of this nature, you get one or two people, getting carried away. And so, yes, with the excesses, I apologize. But again, I agree with Adam Bonner that, yes, we need to find a way as a nation to bring finality to some of these issues. It is no crime for somebody to step out to say, I want to wear the uniform to protect the country. It is no crime. But when we subject the same people to all manner of, brutalities, to the extent of even killing, then really it becomes difficult. My fear is that if we do not nip this in the bud, the time will come when we will not even get people to wear the uniform to protect our country. I mean, obviously, that will not be good for the country. And so I agree that, yes, we need to sit and then to bring a lasting solution or find a lasting solution to this. I agree. But my worry, this is becoming too many. It's becoming too many, and I'm afraid.
And at the risk of sounding as if we are not paying attention to the military officer who was killed, I think it's also fair to put in a context that as we speak right now, we don't know why this latest military officer was killed and whether he was killed because he's a serving officer or was in military fatigue. In fact, from what the description of the parents to us today, he was in a military trouser, but the top was ordinary civilian attire. We don't know that now, and so nobody can tell what really caused or the reason for his murder. That's important, isn't it?
It is. I agree with you. I agree.
But you raise an important point about, of course, Adam Mahama is the most cited case of this and the military. And then there is a situation in Wa, and I remember the Speaker of Parliament himself took great exception to what happened in Wa when the military officers had their phones stolen and they went on the rampage and beating people. I mean, I know you've condemned the killing of military officers, just one is too many. But what about the officers who, in circumstances where nobody has been killed, they believe a wrong has been done to them, like the Wa case, and then they take the matter into their own hands?
So, Evans, obviously, these are two different things altogether.
Yes.
When the Wa incident happened, my minister actually condemned, and my minister did not support the soldiers on rampage. These are two different things altogether. Obviously, when a soldier is on a rampage, that nobody will condone that. but not when life is lost. Just as every Ghanaian deserves to live, and every Ghanaian's life is important, so is the life of a soldier.
You're absolutely right. Every Ghanaian's life is important, and especially the life of a soldier. But again, it comes back to the bigger point about the relationship that exists between the military and the civilian population. I mean, we've gotten to a place
Evans,
where
you know what I find interesting.
yes,
In Ashaiman in particular, the kind of relationship between the citizenry of Ashaiman or the residents of Ashaiman and then our soldiers from Michelle Camp is one that really, it's for me, to a very large extent, I see it as being cordial. And so to get to this point, it's worrying. It's very worrying.
yeah. I mean, but on a larger national scale, though, of course, you're concerned about the frequent tensions that have existed. How do we fix this tension? Because it's led to a few deaths of military officers, and then it has led to brutalities from the military on civilians, and it's been boiling for a while. How do you fix this problem?
Evans, I think that this is something we as a nation must come together to find a solution to. Because if we don't, a time may come when a soldier is asked to go on an assignment and they may put up some kind of lackadaisical attitude. That will not be good for this nation. And the soldier is there for the Ghanaian. The soldier is there to protect and make sure that life, property, the territorial integrity of our nation is protected. And so it is important that we come together as a nation to find a solution to this. It cannot be done by the military alone. It cannot be done also by the civilian population alone. It takes, like they often say, it takes two to tango. And so I believe that we must set to come up with a strategy to make sure that the relationship between the military and the civilian population, it's made to become cordial, more cordial, if I should say. It is doable, and I think that we must really pay attention, because we cannot continue to have this tension between the military and the civilian population. That will not be good for this country.
I mean, Mr. Bona, one of the often cited reason why this is the case is that because of the shortcomings of the Ghana Police Service, we now have a situation where we bring the military in to collaborate in civilian operations. And so we've invited the soldiers from the barracks into our streets, and we found that it works. But isn't this the cost and the price we pay for that? And that in an ideal situation, the military should be in the barracks until the territorial integrity of this country is at risk.
I'm sure you have always, you've heard me severally reiterate and re-emphasize that. And just like you did say, the military is there for external aggression only. The exception here is that when they are needed, the police would usually call on them to be brought in. But I think that over the years, we have found it very convenient to draft the military into the inner city centers in our communities. And therefore, that is the price you pay for doing some of these things. Mine is that we are definitely going to have the military perform some of these functions or come into inner city areas to perform some functions until such a time that we can get the police numbers up. I think over the period, the numbers of the Ghana Police Service has gone up, largely. They've had I think in the last 6 years, they've added about 10,000 or more police officers. The ideal number should have been to have had at least about 80,000 police officers, so that the ratio of citizen police would have been narrowed down to probably 300 or so. But we aren't doing any better. I think just recently, the police have been told, they've been given some helicopters, they've been given some, vehicles and training for the Ghana Police Service. As far as I'm concerned, it's ongoing. You have them these days in a lot of our, communities. Visibility of the police is everywhere. But that is not to say the numbers are as good as one would have expected. Going into 2024 elections, some of us have said that, you see, let's have the military as a backup. Let's not have the military probably drafted in to do to perform some of these functions that the police should be performing. And I would want to reiterate that, Evans, you asked the Honorable Deputy Minister a question, or you said something to him. Mine is that, what do we do? What we need to do? I do believe that Justice, the Chief Justice, Enin Yeboah, is on his way out. We are likely to have a new Chief Justice, hopefully this year. Enin Yeboah has done his bit. He's done very well, tooling some of our courts. But the justice delivery system in this country, needs a lot of retooling. The question I would want to answer directly and say that, you see, there is a saying that justice delayed could be justice denied or justice denied. And so if you have one case that lingers in court, maybe a police officer is beaten up, or a civilian is beaten up by a police officer or a military officer, and that police officer or military officer is arrested or civilian is arrested and sent to court, and it takes 10 years to adjudicate and pronounce judgment on that case, chances are that the people are going to begin to behave in that mob mentality. And that is what we are seeing. So that you have sometimes, military or security personnel behaving in a mob mentality and civilians behaving in a mob mentality. I was in London in probably 2000, and I was still there. I was resident there when a killing took place, in fact, in front of me, around Woolwich Town Center. A military officer who had just strayed off from his camp just around the Woolwich area into the town center was tapped. And when he was tapped, almost immediately, the police came and arrested the perpetrator. The military didn't come to beat anybody up. But what happened to those who perpetrated that crime was that they strictly were punished, because when they took them to court, the evidence were there. They took them in and they were sentenced as soon as possible, as quickly as possible. But over here, you can name them. Adam Mama in the Upper East region, Major Mama, you can remember Major Mama, JB Dankwa. The list is unending. These cases, I don't want to sound prejudicial here, but what I'm trying to say is that our justice delivery system needs to be relooked at, because then when people begin to have distrust in the way criminal prosecutions are done, especially in court and the rest, then chances are that people will begin to make excuses to take the law into their own hands.
Yeah, I mean, but we see ordinary civilians do that, and the police deal with them. But then when you see law enforcement, when you see the military take the law into their own hands, that's a whole different ballgame. It's like you're setting a whole different precedent when they decide that, well, our person has been killed. We possibly do not trust that this will be resolved quickly. So let's deploy helicopters and military onto the ground. And in the process, there are excesses. And then people's lives are at risk also. I mean, that is, I guess, why we are having this conversation. But I'm grateful, gentlemen, that you've given us an input. And the Deputy Minister had assured that he is going to assist with locating the individuals who have been arrested so far, and the parents have been looking for them. So I'm grateful that you could join us with that clarity tonight. Thank you very much, Kofi Amankwa Amenu, the Deputy Defense Minister, and Adam Bona, who joined us. We were not able to get Henry Nogbe, who I understand that he's been combing Accra. He spoke to me earlier, and because of that, his phones have been off as a result of trying to get the location of the individuals who have been picked up, for many of his residents who have been calling on him to assist them. We'll get some updates on this in our subsequent bulletins if you stay with us, and go on to myjoyonline.com also, as we keep updating on this story that has been trending all day. Enjoy the rest of your evening.